I'm recording to this. I think I'll turn this heater off as well.
In at number 65. Don't call me babe, but do call me Barb. Wire.
Okay, there's nothing sweaty there. Well, the setup at the end is like the worst, the like setup for a line ever. Like,
Hmm.
like they set it up somewhere near the beginning of the movie and they just shoehorn it in as hard as they can for the climactic moment, which you have to appreciate that.
Right at the end, I was like, "Oh wait, this is Lola Bunny," and then I realized that Space Jam came out like at almost the exact same time as this. So it just happens that there were two movies who came out. Well, where a lady was like, "Don't call me blank."
Well, also that
Oh.
was so the 90s was all like, I'm girl power, but they were still clearly just there for male sex appeal.
Mm. Yep. The film today, Barbed Wire. It's Films and Filth. This is Cicada Podcasting. This is Matt here. There's Babe over there.
Hey, babe.
So, babes.
Babe.
We're just
I'm
making
also
like
babe. I like it when people call me babe. Call me
let's,
babe.
let's make it 60s style Hollywood then. Everyone's Babe. Yeah.
Yeah, babe.
Babe, you're in
And
the
babe too,
movies.
Pig in the City.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
The George Miller directed one, weirdly enough.
Classic. Classic.
Um,
So I hear.
the most entertaining thing for me was I came in assuming this was like a 90s PG-13, right? On the ratings, and
Mm.
within 3 minutes of wait, this isn't PG-13.
It
So
feels like one. I
It feels like a PG-13 movie, and then very late in the day, one of the producers was like, "Wait, we got Pamela Anderson in this. Get some tits on screen."
that's actually pretty much what happened.
I thought so.
That
yeah.
opening sequence was like according to the wiki page, that was one of the last things they filmed. So like, oh, we need to get a little more titty enhance and put that scene in, and there was something about the bathtub scene as well. Let's see.
The the weirdest one was when she was just walking and someone was like, "Tell I'm not sure we can trust you," and then she's like, "You can't." And she just shows a boob for like a split second while she's walking.
Can't
It's
trust the
like it looks
boob.
like she is literally just like, "Look." It's like you're getting flashed. But
Behold my breasts.
The opening scene was inspired by a nightmare Pamela Anderson had, in which she was being sprayed with champagne while performing a nasty dance. David Hogan, who was under pressure to include more nudity, liked the idea and threw out the movie's original opening to include it. Oh, there was even a different
nice.
opening and they changed it. Okay.
Well, this was not. This was. I know everyone's wondering. Was not conceived as a Pamela Anderson vehicle. If you guys knew, I don't know if you guys knew it was based on a comic book that was like a 9-issue comic book that was
I
like two
didn't
years
know that
earlier.
until today, but when I read it, it made perfect sense.
Yeah, it feels comic booky, but it also feels like let's get this out as quick as possible. And then the comic book was canceled after this movie did badly.
Hmm. I
Mm.
think I mixed up with Tank Girl somewhat. I thought maybe we were watching Tank Girl.
Tank Girl is better than this. I don't think that's controversial.
Hmm. So is
Or
this?
difficult.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I haven't. Have I seen Tank Girl? If I did, it was 30 years ago or whatever. But yeah, I just, I have them totally crossed in my brain for some reason, I guess, because they're weird comic book movies with, you know.
the the thing about it, this movie has a lot of things in it I like. It feels like a movie I would like, but everyone talks like this all the time. No one has any emotion. Their emotion is, well, except for the one guy towards the end who just keeps saying well to people
Well,
and then
well,
he gets blown
well.
up. So that was fun, but mostly mostly everyone is Batman in this. Everyone's
Okay,
Batman.
I guess I was more entertained by that aspect than you were. So I
And
was
then
like, well,
I mean, it was funny.
even Pamela, she did the Batman accent in like one scene at the start, and then forgot to do it for the rest of the film. So she was like saying badass lines in like her sweetie pie voice.
no, that's fine. There, people are generally flat in this movie, but I thought they were entertainingly flat. I'm smelling
Eh,
out where I don't know where Luke is yet, but I think I was more entertained by this one than Mark. So,
it wasn't bad. It was just like, well, this would have been something I really loved if people had just, you know, yelled more.
Yeah,
Mm.
it felt like a film that needed a bit more filth. Like a couple of over the top ridiculous performances, some crazy gore during the fight scenes. That would have made all the difference.
Well, they went with titty instead. That was their solution
Yeah.
to amp it up a bit.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know, Luke, where are you lying on this particular one?
So, for once, I actually took a quick squiz at the Wikipedia before I watched the film, and I saw set during the Second American Civil War, and I thought, well, I got some long train journeys this weekend. I'm gonna watch this and Civil War.
Mm,
Okay.
I have not seen
Um,
that yet.
Me neither.
that film, I mean, it's a boring, cowardly film that does nothing interesting, but multiple lines feel like they were taken from this. Like, there's a bit where they literally do the same gag of like, of a $300. That ain't worth nothing. Canadian. They do the same line in Civil War.
Wow.
Well, I guess they're inspired. What year is Civil War supposed to be? This one is either what, 2017 or 2019. They don't quite seem sure in this
I
movie.
guess late 2020s because it's set in the near
Yeah.
future, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, maybe I
Again,
won't watch
you
that one.
can't tell because it refuse it's so desperate not to accidentally say anything. Like
Yeah, that's
it
kind of
gives
the other
you
thing. I was confused a lot. I didn't really feel like I knew what was going on except for what was just directly going on in front of me. It's like, okay, now Pamela Anderson is meeting with people. Sorry, Barb Wire is meeting with people and something, and no dogs biting guys' balls. Like, I knew that was happening, but it was like I didn't entirely understand what anyone's motivation was or what there were Nazis and stuff. And
Yeah,
well,
maybe.
another thing I have going against me watching this, I haven't seen Casablanca since I was a small child.
I was gonna say I've seen
Hmm.
Casablanca a lot, so I was never actually confused watching this because it's the same story. So,
Yeah.
they throw in Charlie. I don't think Charlie's in Casablanca, but otherwise it pretty much maps right on top of it. So I was,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a bad thing. Oh, it is a bad thing depending on another movie as your crutch, but that got me through it. So
Hmm.
at any point in the movie, I kind of knew where we were because we were in the same place in Casablanca. Um,
I've seen it once. Yeah, I don't really
It
think
is
it's a
it's pretty
bad
high on
thing.
our
Like,
list, right?
it's
yeah,
high on the list. It's yeah. I like
I
that
think it's good.
instead of you must remember this, play it again, Sam. That's not the real line, I know, but instead of that, we get like new metal. So play it again, we get the new metal instead, which I don't like new metal. So that made it more amusing to me because I didn't like it.
I mean, this movie opens with like the metal version of "Word Up" by Cameo because it's that time-honored tradition of like, hey, make this really extreme white people playing loud rock music version of it.
Is this Judgment Night's fault? Well, I guess I was doing the rap though, but
No,
yeah.
that was it was definitely just something that's like the cheap. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure there were a couple of cringe things going on that led to that.
To the song?
To that cover of the song.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Someone thought it was a good idea in the mid 90s. I mean, hell, we probably did it as something, playing in bands and stuff.
I wasn't trying to judge you guys, but yeah, you might have covered some things that you shouldn't have really touched, but
Just bass player's cool.
it
Um,
was the 90s.
so I don't know, Luke, give us a story for Casablanca then?
Yeah, I got it here. Steel Harbor is the last free city in the Second American Civil War. Barb Wire runs the bar, Hammerhead, and also moonlights as a mercenary. When the fascist congressionals show up looking for a doctor who can cure their superweapon, so does an old flame from Barb's past in the Resistance. She doesn't take sides, except today she does, because one side are obviously the baddies.
Yeah, they're wearing
Yeah.
Nazi uniforms. You can always punch a Nazi. I mean, did they distinguish those uniforms in any way? I'm not an obsessor that knows exactly where Iron Crosses go and stuff, but it seemed they just took straight.
I think they had different like insignia, but yeah, the uniform is basically the same.
Yeah, yeah. I
They
mean,
were probably in a closet somewhere on the lot.
right,
Right?
exactly.
Anyway,
I mean, this
who
wasn't.
don't care? Sorry. Udo Kier's back. Tiny Lister is here. Timur Morrison is back. We've got like a couple of returning bad list guys.
What did
Oh.
we see him in previously that wasn't Star Wars?
Speed 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
He was in
You're
that a
right.
okay.
lot.
I don't remember what he did in that,
Because
but sure.
I remembered
He
having
was
previously said this is my first time seeing him not play a clone.
he was a guy on the ship who had a job. I don't remember. He had an important job on the ship. He was a good guy, but
He was more memorable than the guy we had replacing Keanu Reeves. So
Right.
true.
But he didn't
But
have an important job in the movie. Maybe on
the
the
guy
ship.
who replaced Keanu Reeves got one over on Willem Dafoe somehow that I don't recall how, where Tamir Morrison did not.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so it's weird the way this is listed in IMDb, and I have no idea why. If it's because this movie flopped really badly,
mm.
is that the cast is not listed. Like Pamela Anderson's like way down the list
That
of the
happens
cast.
sometimes when they go
Yeah,
alphabetical, and I guess they're putting her in as Lee, not Anderson, because this was that year she was married to Motley Crue's drummer.
Mm.
Yeah.
it's yeah, it seems kind of Yeah, it does look kind of alphabetical. Is there
Anyone?
big fatsos early on?
Yeah. Where are you guys? Oh yeah, Big Fats. That was fun.
Yeah, he was kind of my
Where
favorite part.
where were y'all on Pamela Anderson, by the way? Any Baywatch fans?
I was like 6 years old, dude.
I know, but I'm just like, well, that's why I'm asking.
I
I'm wondering how
remember
she
my dad
tracks.
thinking she was hot or whatever, and that being like just a joke in the 90s.
Yeah, okay.
The punchline could just be Pamela Anderson because
Mm,
she was on the telly and she had breasts.
yeah.
But like,
I honestly don't think I've seen her in anything. I've never seen Baywatch. I think she's cool for coming out and just being like, "I'm not wearing makeup anymore. Fuck you." That's all I know about her, really. And I guess she had a sex tape with Tommy Lee or something.
yeah, I think this is the most I've ever seen of her.
Yeah, I think
Oh, she was in Scary Movie 3, which I did see. So maybe I
we'll be
guess I
watching
saw her in
five.
something.
Yeah.
I
I saw
know. I
Borat. She had a
know.
cameo in Borat.
Oh, that's
Okay,
true.
so I saw her in that.
The Nanny, I didn't watch that, but for sure. Ooh, yeah, oh God,
I
that
didn't
show was so
either.
annoying.
But here we go.
Because my mom would watch it, and I'd hear it in like the other room, and just Fran Drescher's voice would drive me nuts.
Oh, I love Fran Drescher's voice. That's weird.
Okay.
I could listen to her. She could just read me anything.
You know what it is? Because in the Nanny, she's like sitcom and like supposed to be likable. Like in Spinal Tap, she's great.
Hmm.
Where she's accusing them all of being sexist, and they're like, "What's wrong with being sexy?" That's the scene with her. So she's
Uh,
fantastic. There, it's just the Nanny, that show itself. The combination drove me insane somehow.
I mean, she's the star, so you probably heard her a lot. But,
Because yeah, Mark and
um,
I were, we were teens in the '90s, but Pamela Anderson never really scratched my itch. I guess that's like, too much work done, maybe.
I mean, Baywatch isn't. I'm not the target audience
Yeah, I
for
was in the
that because it
Baywatch.
wasn't. There's a lot of TV shows I never watched that are like, did it have space or robots or something in it? No, it's a drama that I'm not going to watch it when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I caught plenty of The Hoff and Knight Rider, but I didn't care by
Yeah.
Baywatch times. Well, anyway, that was also when did that come on TV? Do you have any memory of that being like, what was it, like a Sunday afternoon show or something? And I was, doing something on a Sunday afternoon.
Probably. I don't know.
I feel like it
No
didn't
idea.
air at a time I would have watched it because it wasn't even one like I just happened to catch while channel flipping.
I'm pretty sure that I like saw it becoming coming onto the TV and then clicked away from it
Okay, see,
before.
I
Is
don't
that
even remember clicking
interesting?
away. I don't even remember
Is
clicking away. So
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I didn't start watching hour-long dramas until like Oz and The Sopranos came out. Like I need violence.
what was the first hour-long drama I watched? Huh, that's a good question. Okay. Northern Exposure, a drama. We
When
watched
you
that
say
when I was growing
hour-long
up.
drama, do you mean like a 45-minute drama with ads?
Yes.
Yes.
TNG.
Oh crap. That's again, that's space
Yeah,
and
it's space
robots.
stuff, right?
That's got,
Yeah,
yeah, space
Yeah.
stuff. I think we're talking the grounded thing. Although I mean Baywatch I don't think
Yeah.
was known for being particularly realistic. Probably more so than Barbed
the A
Wire, but
Team for me.
Yeah, I would watch the A Team. That's sci-fi in its own way, and they just
well
would.
also it's reasonably violent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Not as violent as it could be. It's 80s, TV,
Yeah, everyone gets up and walks away.
but this one's not
Except from
violent
that
enough for
one
you.
guy they send out of an airplane.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like season 5, they finally kill one dude.
We finally killed someone.
Uh, remember when the X-Men animated series came out and they like killed someone off in the first episode and it was like, whoa, I can't believe they killed someone off, and then he just came back like 5 episodes later.
Who was that?
Morph.
Oh, okay. I actually haven't really seen much of that show, so
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's aged well, but a lot of
I would
people seem to think it has.
recommend. There's a podcast called Days of Future Past, or the Days of Future Cast, obviously,
hmm.
and their first few seasons were just recapping that show. And I think the best way to experience it these days is just to listen to that and not bother watching it.
Yeah, the thing it did was
It
it
serialized actual
serialized
stories from the comics.
in a great like way that wasn't like it didn't have the problems with serialization that we have now, because it just wrapped up whatever it had to wrap up, because it was, just adapting stuff that had already been
Hmm.
I
done.
guess I even by the 90s I'd read the Claremont run like a few times, like in completion. So I probably didn't
Yeah.
need to watch the show because I'd read all the comic stories
Yeah. It's
several
like
times.
if you really need to see the Dark Phoenix saga adapted to like a motion picture medium, then that's your best option, which is the
Which
bar
is
is
saying,
on the
considering we've had 2 live-action films.
yeah. The
See, that
bar
was
is like in
hmm.
the ocean for that.
Yeah. See, I think the turn off for me for the X-Men animated show in the 90s was I wanted to see like Mark Silvestri or like John Byrne animation, which you weren't going to get. That's not
No.
happening.
No, there's I mean, it didn't look as good as the Batman TV show. So like and really the writing wasn't as good, but the Batman TV show didn't do those like adaptations of those long comic
Hmm.
book arcs and stuff. So that was the main appeal for that show.
So does
But
this count as this isn't quite a superhero movie though, is it? Would you
Kind
call
of
Barb?
is.
It
Like
yeah,
kind of
she
is.
basically has a Batmobile with a bike that comes out the back and stuff.
Yeah,
And
but
a
so,
grappling hook and
that's kind of
gadgets
like
and
Mad
a code
Max,
name.
Waterworld stuff. Yeah, she got the code
well,
name, but
Mad Max could basically be a comic book superhero.
yeah,
Just the
okay.
fact that he didn't come from a comic book is the only thing that stops him. Like
I
that
mean,
could be a
yeah.
2000 AD strip.
I guess that puts her in the Batman mode as she has
Yeah.
no actual powers that we know of. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
feels
well,
she feels I was surprised when you told me this was some like 9 issue comic book. I assumed it was a 2000 AD thing when I found out it was a comic book.
oh. Yeah, it was a Dark Horse thing, which I it's apparently it was mainly I skimmed this briefly, but it was like the guy who made Alien versus Predator conceived it.
Okay.
So
That first Alien vs Predator comic is pretty decent.
okay, it tracks, right? Like that makes sense. This feels like that feels like from the creator of Alien versus Predator. I'm
I
sure they
feel
could not
like
put that in the trailer.
if this comic had waited like if this film had waited like 10 years, it would be in the realm of like
Sin City or something.
yeah, Sin City, Constantine, like Eon Flux, just that sort of mid 2000s obscure dark comic book adaptations that get a cult following.
I guess this does track somewhere alongside Judge Dredd, which came out a year or two earlier than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing it doesn't have that baggage that Judge Dredd had, where it's like, why is his mask off the whole, why is his helmet off the whole movie? That
Hmm.
just that alone, and why is Rob Schneider here? Why isn't Judge Dredd killing Rob Schneider? Anyway, I don't know. That movie did have some cool stuff in it, but it's,
It did,
you
but the
know,
I don't hate that
later
film.
one, the later
the
one,
later one is knocked it out of the park pretty well. I don't I want to give it full credit because the later one, I feel like it could have been funnier, but it is
Hmm.
like incredibly faithful and good adaptation. And seeing it in 3D was like
I've said this
incredible.
before and I'll say it a million times again. The best Judge Dredd film is RoboCop.
That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
And honestly, so there's more than a few strains of Judge Dredd in Thor Ragnarok, in my opinion. Like that, the way the whole movie, most of that movie is just Jeff Goldblum's like fucked up planet.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that has like lots of Judge Dredd DNA in it. But that's totally different than barbed wire.
Right, right. Well, this
um,
is does this how much CG is even in this? Does it have CG?
I
This
don't
is
think
this
there
is
was.
I
The
don't think there
opening
is
title
any.
was CG, but that's
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
This is just it's interesting to track movies from around this time, like what side of the line they're on, you know?
Oh yeah, because I was
Yeah.
watching the film and thinking like, this is fun. This is just stuntmen jumping off shit and guns going off.
Oh yeah, they were definitely
Yeah.
making, I was like, this is a decent action sequence because it's just, the car, it's car stuff, it's
Yeah.
vehicular insanity. I
Yeah.
watched that all day.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here, and I feel like maybe with I don't know. If somebody had done this with the right touch, this could have been like an all-time classic film. It's just like maybe it takes itself a little too seriously, or they got the wrong guy to direct it. David Hogan is the director. He was a music video guy.
I was about to say,
Again,
you tell me because you cannot click on his name in Wiki.
well, I use IMDb because they sponsor our podcast, not really, but it's
Yeah.
just it's right here. He did
Official enemy of the podcast, IMDb.
yes. He did a bunch of crappy stuff like Dave Matthews Band and Blues Traveler.
Oh, he didn't even
And
do good videos? That's too bad.
he did Jennifer Page Crush the from Country Bears.
Oh, yeah,
Um
yeah. But the music was not the best part of that.
no, and it looks like he didn't get a whole lot of work after this came out. Well, Lionel Richie video from 1998.
Mm.
It's weird.
Hey, let me check in. Did we hear the opening narration twice?
When
Once in
we
the
heard it and also saw it on screen.
yeah, and then Barb
And then
Wire
she
herself
pretty
says
much
it
said
again.
the same shit again,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm just making sure that I wasn't going nuts there, and I was just like, am I hearing the same thing multiple times? And
They
yes, okay.
really, really wanted you to understand the setting, even though it was basically just fascism in America. So pretty accurate 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Um,
was like 2017 was the worst year of my life, and I just put in my notes, yeah, me too.
I don't know. Would you want to avoid a free city in 2025 though? That sounds like a good place to avoid in 2025. A free city.
We only pay in
Well,
crypto here.
I would assume most people would avoid it. It's just that Barbed Wire isn't going to avoid it because she doesn't want anyone to tell her what to do,
Hmm.
um, or call her Babe.
Yeah,
Even though
this
it seems like
movie.
people like to call her Babe there because I think in a free city you get called Babe a lot. Um, the the original director for this was Adam Rifkin, who I think I know his name.
Well, you
Um,
do now for sure.
I know his name.
Yes, you
He
do.
is a writer. Oh, he's a writer and a director.
Oh, I know his name.
Well,
It's
was it
Adam
because I just
Rifkin.
said?
Say his name. His name is Adam Rifkin.
Okay, he wrote The Chase. Do you remember The Chase?
That's the
The
one where
British game
Charlie
show?
Sheen
Oh,
gets a blowjob
he
while driving.
podcast lore. He wrote Small Soldiers.
Hell yeah, okay, King.
So
So
maybe you
yeah,
do know his name.
that might have been better under his direction, even
And the
though
chase is part of Flea's
oh,
acting repertoire, right?
maybe
I think
he
Flea's
directed
in it.
Detroit Rock City. Oh, he directed The Chase also. Okay, well, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that would have the guy who directed The Chase directed this. That would probably have been pretty amazing. But the studio said no, and they replaced him with a music video director. So there's your problem.
Yeah, but in the 90s, that everybody wanted a music video director. So you got
Yeah,
Fincher's popping at this point, right?
I mean, yeah, I can't blanket say music video directors are bad movie because there's been a plenty of incredible directors that started out as music video directors.
I mean, I didn't think that this was like a shit show direction or anything, but I will say like the budget for this is 9 million, and it didn't look like all 9 million was on screen. Maybe the cars, maybe they spent it on smashing
Right?
cars.
Well, also Pamela was probably a
Yeah,
couple million.
yeah, for real. Um, yeah,
But she wasn't originally going to be in this, was it? It was
no, she
not.
wasn't the
It was
original
not
choice.
a
It was not a
vehicle for
vehicle.
her. Oh, David
Yeah, but
Hogan
I'm
was.
sure when it became a vehicle for her, it changed a lot.
Yeah,
It probably helped it get made. You know how that stuff works.
right. Hey, before we besmirch David Hogan's name too much, he did second unit direction on Alien 3 and Batman Forever. That's kind of fun. Speaking of Fincher, not that
Sure.
Fincher likes that movie, but
Well, I mean, it's relevant. So
So I really like
interesting.
Batman Forever.
It's fine.
Better than both the Burton
It's better
ones.
than this. It's better than this. I mean, um, interestingly, part of the history of this movie is that Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, came out at the same time, and Gramercy and Universal diverted like a lot of the marketing from that into this.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I
that's
did.
really interesting because this feels like a movie that they would do on that show.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought that's where you were going when I first heard you say Mystery Science Theater.
yeah. Like,
No.
it's I remember because I saw that in the theater, but we had to. It was playing on like one screen in Atlanta, which is kind of insane. It was like Phipps Plaza only.
Yep, and I saw it there. Wait, did
Yeah.
I see it with you?
I think I actually saw it with high school people, but maybe you
Okay.
were with us. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I mean, most movies I probably went with like you, but yeah, a few times I went with other people.
I don't. I'm not. My feelings aren't hurt if you did not go with me to one movie in
No, I'm
1996.
just trying to work out my memory. That's all.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely remember going to see it at Phipps Plaza. That's
Well,
the
that
thing.
was the only place you could see it, so that makes sense.
So that
May 3rd,
tracks.
1996. Oh, I know why. I drove to it. It was one of the first things I drove to. That makes sense from the release date. Okay, that's why it's sticking in my mind.
Hmm.
Because I got my license on my 17th birthday, not
Oh.
my 16th.
But you could have seen Barbed Wire.
Yeah, yeah. I would have. It would have been a shorter drive though, because I would have gone to a different movie theater because it opened wider, I
Yeah.
guess,
It
to
opened wider.
to a a box office of 3.8 million. I mean, this one really ate it. Like, I'm actually surprised it
Yeah.
was that big of a flop. It does
Yeah, because
seem like
nine
some.
million's not like a big budget.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel like they should have struggled to make back 9 million.
and I don't think it's so bad that it. I mean, I feel like it should have made that
I
back. I mean, come on.
it feels like schlock that I love. That I love schlock. This feels like just schlock that regular ass people were not prepared to deal with.
But also, I
And
think, did people assume it was going to be more like grotty and schlocky than it was?
I doubt it. I think people, the audience was that did go to see it were probably divided into people who wanted to see boobs
Hmm.
and people who thought Pamela Anderson was really cool and just wanted to see whatever Pamela Anderson was doing, and probably like a small sliver of people who read the Dark Horse comic. And this dovetails into the question we always ask: why is this on the bad list? I think it's people hate women who are famous for being attractive.
Yeah,
It's like just
that's
as
pretty fair.
hater town. Like I don't think this is
Yeah, because what's
particularly
this
worse
scoring
than
at? Like 3 point something?
3.5. Now, if we take
yeah.
everything into consideration, because if we did the real bottom 100, we'd have a lot of stuff we couldn't find, a lot of like
That's true.
classic
Yeah, yeah,
documentaries.
yeah,
But I think near the top of the actual list is a Anna Nicole Smith documentary or something is like near the actual bottom.
yeah.
Hmm.
Right, because you put like a minimum number of votes or something, right,
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
the
because
list.
if you really just go for what's one, it's hard to find that, and then it's just like it's like some 1966 movie that's impossible to find now.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. It's Czechoslovakian film made for $6 by
right, right.
students. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be that's why we put a few caps on the lower end stuff.
Yeah, I think I know you didn't apply this criteria to it, but it's like you could probably limit it to films that got a semi-wide release, and you'd come up with a decent list of
yeah, I think
things
we've
that
had a
are.
few that were like straight to video kind of deals.
Yeah, Smolensk did not count as a wide release.
No, no.
They're like nothing foreign
But
probably went
that
into.
has like kind of a notable story behind it, right? I mean,
Hmm.
Oh
far
yeah,
more interesting than the movie.
yeah.
Um,
That was definitely a podcast worth doing.
Yeah.
I
Not a
mean,
movie worth
Well,
watching, but a
this
podcast
one
worth
I'm
doing.
questioning.
Yeah, this has been rough, and it will
I think it
continue to be
actually
probably.
would have benefited from having Andrew here, just as someone who probably liked the film a bit.
I think I liked it a bit. I
Yeah.
was sitting here being like, I'm looking at the
Yes.
bad list movies and seeing what I like it better. And I liked it better than that Mortal Kombat we just watched. Fear.com, better than that. Three Ninjas, that was good. Okay.
If
I am warming
it
up to
does
Batman
feel
Robin.
like a pairing with three ninjas. I guess Hogan and Pamela Anderson just feel of a piece.
Mm.
Blonde people who were
Yeah.
big in the 90s.
Hey, here's one I'll
Well, and
compare it to.
Although
That
Pamela Anderson has gone on to be pretty based, whereas Hulk Hogan has gone on to be a huge piece of
yeah.
shit.
but you could
But
Um,
also
was
compare
at
it.
the time, we just didn't all know about it
Yeah.
yet.
You could also compare it to Lonnie Anderson. who is like, the
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
evil.
yeah.
If you could somehow do a matchup where Lonnie Anderson as Medusa faces off against Barbed Wire,
Oh hell yeah.
that'd be amazing.
The cuntiest film ever filmed.
Yeah, just like both of them just whipping each other, and the whips just going. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. I guess Barbed Wire doesn't use whips, but
I
she
mean, to
could.
this
She
movie's
uses
credit, it doesn't even
she
bother
uses
trying to.
guns better than Medusa's terrorists do.
That's true.
This movie doesn't even pretend to set up for a sequel, so you can give it credit for that. It's nice and
Well,
encapsulated. I guess there's only nine
nothing ever
issues.
did. Nothing ever set up for a sequel until like, you know, now.
This
That's
is
that's a now thing.
I
That
think the
doesn't
late
future
happen.
'90s. The late '90s is where you start to do it.
Fucking
Where you have a movie like
Batman
The
didn't do it.
Shadow or
Yeah.
something that kind of does it a little bit, right?
I don't
Yeah, you're
think
right.
a
A lot. Even
single.
the first Batman film kind of ends with him like he's got his revenge and sort of
Yeah,
it makes Batman into a one and done revenge story almost
yeah. I don't think that any Batman movie really set up for a sequel.
until begins.
Did that? I mean, that
And
barely did.
Robin's
Yeah.
Batman and Robin ends with them like running into the camera. They're still Batmaning. But
Yeah,
begins ends with the whole like they give him the Joker card and stuff.
That's
right,
true.
right. No, this one just were they? I was like, are they trying to actually recreate shots from Casablanca in that last scene at the airport? I think they were.
Probably.
I am kind of interested to read the comic now.
It might be good.
Like,
I don't know. The Dark Horse
because
stuff tends to be fun, pretty
and just
readable.
because like I want to know how much of that made it to this film, if any.
I mean,
This is a
wouldn't be
weird time for
surprised.
the comic book adaptations where you might get something completely that barely resembles the source material because
Hmm.
Hollywood knows better than dumb comic book writers and artists, so
Well,
they
that's
could
one of the
fix it.
reasons I love the Venom films so much is because they feel like that.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. But it's we're in this weird territory where they adapted Iron Man and it worked. Where
Hmm.
like all of us leading up to Iron Man were kind of like, really? That's what you're doing? Because it felt like Marvel was just out of properties because they sold all of them off. And they're like, well, we've got Iron Man, and we've got Captain America, which also didn't seem like it was going to work, which had to fail. Captain America had not worked in the past.
Hmm.
Well, speaking of Captain America, I do think I kind of enjoyed the Captain America movie more than this because that movie, like I was saying, like people were it had a heart on its sleeve quality, and people were like yelling a lot and kind of going
Mm.
for it. And it's just I don't really connect well with this whole like everything's hard boiled and like even Sin City to an extent was
Yeah, I
like
think it also struggles for having like the um her character is that she doesn't care until at the end she does care, which is not it's a difficult role to make interesting. And I like Pamela Anderson. She's not, Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah, I was gonna say
yeah.
the fact that I've seen Casablanca like at least half a dozen times, I'm just always like in this movie, just kind of like falling back on that as my background. If something doesn't make sense or if something seems a little slow, I'm like, I know where we are. So yeah, I guess I will be the cheeriest
Anyway,
boy on this
I'm
movie
I'm
here.
currently having a little peek at the like list of American superhero films by year. Did you know the year before this there was an American Fist of the North Star film?
I'm aware of it, but I think it's not good, right?
Oh, I'm sure it's not, but it's just wow, I had no idea. But yeah,
I was
like this year, this came out the same year as like The Phantom, the second The Crow
mm,
movie.
yeah. The second The Crow movie is supposed to like
The
not be
second The
bad, but I've
Crow.
never seen it. The second The Crow.
The second The Crow.
Um
Is that the name of
oh,
it?
That is like a
yes,
Japanese film titling.
Crow the
The
second.
Crow, the final.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not the
And
last
then
sequel.
and then
No,
some
it's not
character that
even the
looks
first
like
one
a
called the final.
no. So while you were peeking at that, I was peeking at some Barbed Wire comic books.
Hmm.
And interestingly, these seem really colorful. And in almost every panel I'm seeing here, she's wearing like purple, but with like an aquamarine, like her outfit is
Like a
sort of
comic book Catwoman.
like it's like 80s looking for comic came out in the 90s, it looks kind of 80s. Like she's wearing like an outfit that's kind of purple and aqua
Like second phase
together.
Dazzler.
I mean, very much, but I mean, she's very much like her shirt is just barely her shirt. She's wearing like a jacket and a bra, and the jacket is purple and the bra is light blue. So it's definitely the sex appeal is here, but it's just not as like monochromatic or dark as this, which is interesting. That's another thing. I
Is this
guess
an early gritty reboot?
decision. It's an early gritty reboot that maybe they should have thought because Tank Girl, like I mentioned, is pretty colorful and still pretty beloved, I think, and from around the same time.
I think they were trying to push some Mad Max buttons here because Mad Max isn't that
Yeah.
colorful, you know?
It almost feels like because the way that it's kind of basically Casablanca, it's basically Mad Max in its setting. Like, I feel like the producers pretty much had a film ready to make and then slapped a comic book onto it and then slapped Pamela Anderson onto that. Like, I don't think there's a single bit of this that feels like anyone's passion project.
Except maybe the creators of
And
the comic book.
that tends to be
And
what
they might have been
lifts
disappointed.
what lifts a filth list film for me is when like yeah, but you could tell someone's heart was in this.
Yeah, and Tank Girl, I'm looking at it and I'm looking at stills from it, and it still looks great, and it definitely does look like a passion project. And that was also a comic book, if you guys didn't know.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe
I
somebody
owned
was
issues
like,
of that.
they're green lighting Tank Girl. Quick, we need to buy something that's like Tank Girl.
Mhm.
Hey, Barb Wire is available. Like
That might be the case, and like we're already making some, action movies, so we can just that. I'm one. Does the plot of the comic book follow Casablanca too, or is it just this movie?
Casablanca 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's a good question. I haven't seen an answer to that. If the comic book follows a similar track.
Steven Spielberg was asked to produce Tank Girl, but declined because he felt he was not hip enough for it. This led to a slogan that the film was too hip for Spielberg.
Nice.
Anyway, I'll close that page.
Too
I
hip
don't
for.
need to stare at that.
I will say, here's a reason maybe it just totally flopped. It has like the worst poster ever. Is anyone taking a look at this theatrical release poster?
I mean, that seems pretty common for bad list movies.
Yeah, so
Like
marketing also might have been a
Is
Is it the
bad
poster
thing
that's
here.
just her with a gun?
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't establish that it's like a sci-fi superhero.
Correct. It has a few types of fonts. It looks like a 1985, softcore,
Yeah.
basically.
I mean, it says no laws, no limits, no turning back, which I feel like is way overpromising.
Mm. Like, yeah, I mean this does reek of something that just is you'd be very entertained watching on, TNT at 3 p.m. again, right? That's what this movie
Uh,
is. And that can like
yeah.
yeah. I guess it's like a not as good version of Andy Sedaris film or something.
Um,
Which I think
yeah,
I've
it feels like
said
it's
that
not even
about something
close.
before, yeah.
I think he said that about Captain America, which
Oh,
yeah,
which
that's
we've already, yeah. Well, you
fair
were comparing the
criticism.
newer one, but I was actually going to bring up like, how do you think this rates with the 1990 Captain America?
Like I
So
said, I think I like that one better than this
that's
because it's
okay.
just more
For a minute when you
fun.
talk about all the shouting, yeah, I was not quite sure if you were talking about more recent or the 1990, but
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely,
Yeah, of
definitely think
course I
the
prefer modern MCU stuff to this, which I don't often say, to be fair.
yeah,
like I think I do like this a little bit better than Captain America for some
I think
reason.
Captain America did feel a little bit
yeah.
long and slow.
Yeah, this one
This
moved
did whip by.
reasonably well. So that helped. But yeah, I guess that's why I'm coming up with that Andy Sedaris comparison again because they don't hold a candle hard ticket to Hawaii, you know?
No, and that even just that film has like all these creative things that would be totally out of place here. You know what I mean? Like that they're not reinventing anything. It's just sort of like standard action standard stuff and then weird dialogue.
Yeah, I guess the failing of the film was just not it needed more weird choices. A few more weird choices and it
Yeah,
would
like
really pop.
what like the big fat guy who lives in the fucking scoop of a digger?
Yeah.
Great.
That
Yeah,
was
that
a
was
few more
Where
things like
where were
that.
more of
Yeah.
those characters, right?
Yeah, and it turned into Mad Max for a second, and then the thing where she throws the grenade at his balls and he just zooms in on his face. Like I rewound that a bunch of times because I thought it was so funny. It's just like, oh, I don't know.
Who
Like
was the
maybe
actor who played like the cop? 'Cause
The
I've seen him in a
cop.
bunch of stuff.
Hmm.
I'm
I don't
scrolling through list of things. Not
know.
excellent. Charlie, no, Charlie couldn't see. Xander Berkeley.
Must
Xander
be.
Berkeley. Oh wait, is he in T2? I think he's the dad in T2,
Oh,
maybe.
well, there you go.
I'm just guessing about that
Oh,
dad part.
he's
You're
got
guessing?
small roles in loads of stuff. I'm looking at him now. So he's in
Candyman,
T2,
Gattaca.
Candyman, Air Force One. Yeah. So I've definitely seen him all over the place.
Yeah, I'm
I
just
think Dad in T2 is what I recognize him as, though.
yeah, now that we're putting it out there, I'm like, oh, okay, I can't that's gotta be it. So
John, listen to your mother. She's not my mother, Todd.
so
Yeah. Well, you know, it has people in it. Udo Kier is like Agent 47, I guess. But does he ever kill anybody in this?
No, he's just a waiter.
He's just a waiter. Yeah. And he has a wig for didn't even really understand why.
I assume that he seems like a character who probably is from the comic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because yeah,
Maybe he's got
there was a
more
little bit of
deal.
something to him, but then
like I feel like
didn't quite go
Yeah.
anywhere.
I haven't seen movies like The Phantom or The Shadow since they were actually in the theater, but this seemed to be like more entertaining than those. Those I remember those just being like absolute snooze fests.
I remember from The Shadow there was one point where the Shadow like because it's sort of like the telekinesis is the basis of his power. I mean, just in whatever that in that adaptation, I'm sure it's not originally like that, but it was
Hmm.
like he fired a bullet at the villain and the guy shot a bullet at him, and the two bullets like hit each other and fell to the ground. Like that was super cool, and I remember that. I don't remember anything else about that film,
Okay.
but still, that was a weird choice. So it's like that was something.
I mean, there's some nice pulpiness to some of the dialogue. I actually wrote down quotes like "I will personally rip your heart out of your ass and shove it back down your throat." That's a good line.
And that
Yeah.
followed up with doesn't sound very hygienic.
Yeah, right, exactly. I like a good menage every now and then. That was a fun line. And I wrote the entire sweaty kill line. What's the line from my favorite song? I got you, babe. Don't call me babe. Like, it's a,
Yeah, that was
it's
so weird. Like, if I met somebody now who said their favorite song was "I Got You, Babe," I would be like, "What the fuck is the matter with you?" That's an insane. I mean, I get that it's only there to make the line happen, but like, God, that's
I think one of my exes really liked that song.
maybe you
it's
really like the movie Groundhog Day.
Yeah, I think
it's
that was why she liked the song.
yeah. I was. This is probably stupid,
Wait,
but I
no,
was
she
kind of
hated Groundhog's Day because she was the same ex who hated the actress.
Andy McDowell.
Yeah. I told this story on the Groundhog Day episode. She
Okay.
hated Andy McDowell because, according to her, Andy McDowell was only in one film but acted like she was famous.
Wonder if she's mad that Andy
And,
McDowell's
but
daughter is in
then
literally everything now.
but then I pointed out a second film Andy McDowell was in, and she's like, "Yeah, that's why I hate that film."
Yeah, she's right now everything Margaret Qualley is in. She's just like, curse you, Andy McDowell.
Oh, different last name. She might not make the connection.
She's, I don't know. She looks pretty. I don't know. I thought she looked
No
pretty
idea.
similar. It also might be that Margaret Qualley is just only in movies that I watch, and that's
Movies
because
made only for Mark.
Well, I mean, The Substance and Kinds of Kindness are like my two favorite movies of this year so far, and those are fucking weird and abrasive.
I've heard a lot of
And I
people
don't think.
mention the substance.
Yeah, The Substance I feel like I should see.
Okay, yeah, people do like The Substance, but it is weird and abrasive, and Kinds of Kindness seems to rub everyone the wrong way except me.
Mm.
But anyway,
I guess by default, Dune Part 2 is my film of the year, but that feels pretty basic.
oh, I forgot to watch that. I need to watch it.
just a
It's
banger.
terrible.
I now own
Yeah.
I
most
saw
of-
it twice in the theater, I think.
You know how I smack talk Dennis Villeneuve a lot?
Yeah.
I realize I now own like his last 6 movies on Blu-ray. So
Yeah, he's good. He's just not
the
that
X
colorful.
on my head, face.
Maybe you just compulsively buy every DVD and Blu-ray that comes out. Is it possible it's that?
No, I wanted to do Dune again, so I got Dune, and I wanted, I finally wanted to watch the Blade Runner sequel, so I got that, and I got Prisoners for like 50 yen, and that when that place was going out of sale, and what's the other one I have? Oh,
The
Arrival.
Arrival. Yeah.
Because my
Blade
daughter was like
Runner.
wanted to see like meeting alien films, right? So I had Close Encounters already, and Arrival's, Sun Yen,
I
and
have that weird. I have a weird issue with the Arrival that I don't think that other people have, which is I felt like it was a. I felt like it was an anti-choice narrative at the end.
mm, I was just bummed that the aliens are all black and white, and they're not
I
all.
thought the aliens are great. I love the
Yeah,
aliens.
but
Like
they're not
I
all
just,
colorful like the Close Encounters ones, you know?
I kind of, I guess I just didn't like Amy Adams' character.
Again, just put some
Anyway,
colored lights and barbed wire. That would have done a lot for the movie. Just some flashing
yeah.
psychedelic
Yeah,
lights
some
in the.
neon and shit would have been great.
Yeah, yeah, that would have like added like a full point to the movie.
Yeah, I genuinely think this would have been a great movie made 10 years earlier or 10 years later.
That sounds about
Yeah,
right.
I
It's
was
just
kind of
it
bummed.
was in
I
the
vote 10 years
90s grim
earlier.
dark.
I vote 10
Yeah,
years
maybe
later.
more like 20 years later.
Yeah, as well. So we
Yeah,
keep talking about how the noughts are kind of like
They're
a
basically
bad
just
time for genre films.
yeah, but yeah, if this had come out in like 2015, like a post Thor Ragnarok, post Guardians of the Galaxy, very colorful romp, like the Suicide Squad, the good one.
yeah.
Or
This needs to be weird. This needs to be more fucked up.
Hmm.
Like there's a whole thing where she had like this guy in the gimp suit, and he really only existed to be a guy in a gimp suit who she like knocked out and took whatever it was. And I
Yeah.
was like, she should just have a guy who's a gimp who she like fucks sometimes.
Yeah, what if
Like,
he
why
like
not?
hung about for the whole film and become like an endearing character, and then you're like, huh, this Gimsuit guy's still here. That would have been really funny.
Yeah, it's just this thing where the movie can't allow her to like have just a relationship with somebody because that's like she could like dress in leather and shit and there could be a gimp guy, but it can't they can't depict those two people interacting in a normal way. I
She's
mean,
like
Pulp
a
Fiction did that.
she's like a Japanese idol. Like she has to be available for the audience to feel like they can have her.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense though. Yeah, it really was listening to an interview with somebody. They talked about how Will and Grace was like revolutionary because it was like the gay characters in that show had normal relationships with people in normal lives, and everyone
Yeah,
before that didn't. I'm like, yeah, okay, that does make
I've heard that.
sense.
I've heard that a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like she can't just like peg a gimp and have it be like, ah, thanks, gimp. I'll see you later. That would I want it to be this needs to be kinkier. It's like all the kink that this film has is just like a veneer. And what the film's really just Dirty Harry. It's like a super conservative movie with like a kink theme.
Hmm.
So I want this to I want the fucked up like Rule 34 version of this movie. I think that would be fantastic.
I just want to throw out a few more actors before we get out too far. Udo Kier. I
Mhm.
didn't ever know the guy's name, but you've seen him a lot. He usually ends up doing Lars von Trier and Gus Van Sant and stuff. So Barbed Wire is kind of a
I mean,
weird choice. Well, he did Johnny Mnemonic too. I
we
guess
saw him
he's
in
a,
Fear.com.
yeah. Oh, that maybe that's why he popped so much to the eyeball
Yeah,
as
and
Curly
the
in this one.
editor.
Mm.
And I did
Right.
bring him up in this episode of this podcast at least twice.
Oh, okay. What did you? We talking
He
about
has
tomorrow,
he
but
I
has
what
got
what
did.
you
time?
there. He
Okay.
definitely did.
Did we
I
talk
did.
about Clint Howard yet?
Not yet. I recognized the name and I couldn't. I mean, he's in everything apparently, but I'm like, I am
You
not.
know Clint Howard.
Yeah, he's in
Yeah.
everything apparently.
Offers you Tranya in Star Trek.
Okay,
Austin Powers, right? He's yeah, he's in everything. Anyway, I
he's in
felt like
everything.
it's weird if I don't mention him at least once.
I thought about that too, but I also
Who was
wasn't
he in
clear
this?
on who he was in this.
Schultz was it? Schmidt. Schmitz.
Was
Oh,
that
Schmitz.
one of the Nazis?
No.
the guy she makes a deal with, and he gets shoved in a safe or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. He's got one of those faces, that those unreplicatable faces. Unreplicable. I'll get that
So
out someday.
unless he signed a contract to allowing himself to be scanned for AI,
Hmm.
Hmm.
in which case he's replicated.
Film or filth? Yeah, if I think of this as like a 1986 cable afternoon movie. That's a movie at least. Yeah, in the Cineplex, I guess it's somewhat filthy, but it needed to be more filthy and colorful.
Yeah,
I think.
once again, it's not filthy enough. This should be
Yeah.
filth.
It acts like it contains a lot more filth than it does.
Yeah, but it was fun to watch. I was a little
Yeah,
confused, but
like it's just a very middle school horny movie, right? But it's still R-rated, so which is kind of like a weird balance that you can't balance easily,
it
and
was
they didn't.
almost not as horny as Three Ninjas Live Hiding in
Yeah.
Mega Mountain, which is kind of funny if you think
Yeah,
about it.
I think I agree. Like they treated her like damn, she's not well. They were trying to do like a fucking is she a badass? Then they do the flashback and she's like a cute innocent schoolgirl, and it's like they didn't settle on what kind of sexy they wanted her to play.
Yeah, you can make a badass heroine who is sexy. We've just watched Aliens, and I
Hmm.
mean, Alien, maybe the underwear was doing some of the heavy lifting in Alien, but still that was like a way to do it. It's like sexy isn't necessarily like wearing a leather outfit and talking like this all the
I
time.
did love with that flashback sequence though, because since it's mostly following Casablanca's beats, and in Casablanca that sequence is like 5 to 10 minutes, and here it's like 30 seconds, finish, move on.
Well, you could do a lot worse than copying Casablanca, obviously. Like
Yeah, like I said, that made me I was probably just like pasting some of that movie onto here, and yeah, I'm getting through this. It's fine. It's great, you know?
It I don't know how I feel about like this falls into the same place as Enemy Mine of
Okay, that's an interesting statement.
hmm.
like this you're just telling a story that could be not sci-fi and putting sci-fi liquor paint on it. And it's like I don't
Yeah.
get why. Why
I
does this
mean,
Casablanca remake need to be set in the Second American Civil War in the year 2017?
well, that's like a lot of a lot of Star Trek does that, but it's like inherently Star Trek always has a spaceship in it. So
Hmm.
um Enemy Mine was directed by Wolfgang Peterson. I just had to look that up because I knew it
Hmm.
had something to do with something that we talked about. But yeah, it's
Oh, Enemy Mine eventually does do some interesting stuff because like the alien gets pregnant or whatever.
I want to compare this to Johnny Mnemonic.
Hmm.
Have you guys watched that recently?
I don't think I've ever seen that.
To see Udo, of course. That's when I
It,
saw in the theater, not since.
it's a weird thing, specifically because Keanu Reeves went on to do The Matrix. And I
Yeah.
think that made a lot of us more skeptical about The Matrix because, William Gibson wrote this. It's like it was cyberpunk. We're like, oh, finally, cyberpunk will be represented in a movie. And then it kind of like didn't work.
Then you get
Hmm.
Sandra
And
Bullock in the net, continuing that speed curse.
wasn't the net more just like a modern, like a of the time
Well, I'm
computer
just
hacking
talking. Yeah,
story?
it was.
Because
I'm just talking
Johnny
about like
Mnemonic is like
things that
future,
don't.
future, future.
Yeah, I'm just talking about things that don't get the internet yet. You know, or
It
Lawnmower.
like
cyberpunk.
I would put Lawnmower Man in with Johnny Mnemonic more than.
Okay.
Kind of, but Lawnmower Man was also one of those things where it's a mad scientist story where like the only guy who's in the future is that one guy. But like
Right.
here's the storyline for Johnny Mnemonic. In 2021, the whole world is connected by the gigantic internet, and almost a half of the population is suffering from the nerve attenuation syndrome. Johnny, with an implanted memory chip in his brain, was ordered to transport the overloaded information from Beijing to Newark. Well, Pharmacom, that's with a K, Industries, supported by Yakuza, tries to capture him to get the information back. The Low-Tech group, led by J-Bone, tries to break the missing code to download the cure of NAS, which Johnny carries. It's just insanity. So, like, yeah, and it also has Udo Kier in it. But, it's like, it reminds me of this where it was kind of gritty and kind of nonsensical, but that went way further into the future stuff.
Hmm.
And
Right. But you still, that's what I'm saying. It's still like the internet, right? And they're not
yeah,
really getting it at
they're
all.
not doing that. This is straight up. There's society has collapsed, and we just have to rely on guns
No,
now.
that sounds about right.
And
Yeah,
digital
because
scanners.
I mean, Mad Max. I'm not going to criticize any Mad Max movie. I love all of them. So, like, no.
I have some tens here. The title of this one will just, it's always fun to make Luke angry with. I'm putting 10 because I'm balancing out you mean reviews. So I won't read that one.
Boo.
How about this one then? Utter Gem. This is a brilliant piece of cinema. It is self-depreciating and fully conscious of itself. It's a parody of so many genres and so many tropes. Anyone who reads this movie literally is a cinematic naif. Pam is scintillating. All those critics focusing on her physical attributes come across as horny and clueless teenagers looking forward to their next wet dream. Please do bother to look at her face and eyes for a minute. Pam oozes intelligence and wit, smashing to smithereens cliches of bimbos and dumb blondes. There's no rule that says sexy women must be brainless. Pam, you're one of a kind. The way you choose to live your life says oodles about your natural intelligence and integrity. Wish you had done more cinema, dumb Hollywood. Love gorgeous Tamara Morrison, but I don't see anyone calling him a male bimbo because of his looks. Actually, it says because if his looks, but I thought I'd actually give that a little edit because generally they wrote this
Why?
incorrectly as far as spelling and punctuation.
Okay, well,
It's all pretty valid.
yeah.
Although
I
I
mean,
don't know if I do
definitely.
agree at her performance, but still.
I mean,
I
hey,
don't know if it's fair for me to blame the director, but I feel like she got some instructions that were bad, and she was probably not experienced enough to push back, or maybe just not
Hmm.
confident enough to push back, because this feels like everyone kind of talks the same in this. They're kind of like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
deliver lines like this, and
Well,
there's stupid
it's
lines.
like Kristen Stewart in Twilight, right?
Yeah,
Everyone like slagged her off, but you see her in any other film, she's completely different. That was all the director.
Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart are like two of my favorite
Yeah.
actors in the last 10 or 15 years. They're incredible. Like I could go on for like 30 minutes on how good they are, and I haven't even seen everything they've done. So, yeah,
Hmm.
looking forward to whatever they do next.
hmm.
Trying to see if there are any other good 10-star reviews, and I don't think there are. Uh, there aren't many.
Call me babe and you get a shoe in the head. That's a fun title, at least.
Yeah.
Uh, I loved how
Yeah,
she dipped down her voice and delivered her lines earnestly. She was great. So I guess some people that her vibe is appealing to some people doing where she yeah,
Yeah, again,
that
I
type of
didn't
thing.
hate her performance or anything.
yeah, I don't mind her vibe either. She doesn't seem like she seems like a decent person who'd be a fun person to hang out with. It's not like I don't know, like the modern version of her and Tommy Lee is probably like Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, and I like don't want to be anywhere near those people like ever.
Although I
So
do like Megan Fox in most stuff she's made.
That's
I
because she
think
was
she
in
was
Transformers.
I think she was great. No, no, really. I think she was great in the Transformers movies she was in. It's like a weird thing where you feel like Michael Bay wants her to be like eye candy in it, but she was doing a very good job. I felt like that from the beginning. Not just saying that to make Luke happy.
Hmm.
Rosie
Master.
Huntington, not so much, but
Well, also Megan Fox, her character in the two films she's in, is generally the proactive one, whereas
yeah, where
Harley in
Shia
the
LaBeouf
third
is
one is
like the
definitely
screaming.
rescued.
He's
Yeah.
busy stuttering.
Yeah, yeah, he's like the he's like the screaming. I just remember him as being scared and afraid and screaming.
Hmm.
He's
He's
pretty
no
good at
Katie
that though.
Yeager. Uh,
I guess we'd be wrapping this one up then,
yeah, we're
unless
talking about Transformers.
We haven't talked about barbed wire for most of the past hour, so
Yeah, this is fine. If you're listening to this and you're like, I didn't watch Barbed Wire, then you
you
know
could.
it's not bad. It's fine. I hope we've given you sort of an accurate picture of what it is. Um, it's no Boggy 3, but it's fun enough.
All right. Well, if you dig this podcast, do give it a nice review, rating, all that stuff, and check out the stuff we do over at Podcastio, podcastius.org. You got your Pokemon, you got the Twilight Zone, you got the apes, you got Monster Hunters soon, is it?
yeah, that'll be back in like February.
Okay. Approaching then.
Yeah, when we get our bonus in like the end of this week, I should be buying my PS5
Hmm. Oh yeah, I
and a
gotta
Nice.
get
You
big
gonna
that.
get
ass
the
TV.
you get to the VR?
No, because they basically stopped releasing stuff for it.
Ah. There's like there is a reboot of a Dreamcast game that is only on PS5. Like it's on PS5 VR and then Meta Quest, and I don't want to give Meta another fucking cent of my money.
Hmm.
And I can't afford to get a PS5 and a VR.
Mm.
So anyway, well,
Well,
there's your inside baseball about Dreamcast games.
all right. Well, what's the
What
line for
game?
my favorite song?
Cosmic Smash, it only came out in Japan.
Don't
Mm.
call me Cosmic Smash.
It's like you're like a guy
Shut
who's
up,
like a
Cosmic
robot.
Smash.
Yeah. All right.
I was trying to set up, and
Don't
I'll
call
take
me
it.
Cosmic Smash.
I was taking whatever you'd give me. That's what you gave me. So, because you weren't
Okay.
listening, which is fine.
I
Uh,
I ended up in the fucking weeds
let's see.
mentally.
I guess I'll go ahead and hit the recording button. Goodbyes to those listening.